now. And Jason, I feel like I should start by telling you that when we mentioned in the first hour of the show that you were coming on, we immediately had a bunch of messages on the C Spire text line from folks saying, thank you to Jason. Please tell him how much we appreciate the coverage, some local coverage of the Conference USA baseball tournament, and particularly of Southern Miss. So people were excited that you were back in Hattiesburg for whatever amount of time that is.
Well, the feeling is mutual. I lived here for right at 20 years, and yeah, it's more or less still in a lot of ways it's home. There's a lot of roots here, and so yeah, it's always a good time to get back and visit with some friendly faces and all that good stuff.
So this is just a freelance assignment for you, still covering Memphis and working in the Memphis area?
No, it's technically part of my, I guess, part of my job. So, the same company that owns the paper that I work for, the Commercial Appeal, also owns the Hattiesburg American. And over the last few years, there's been sort of this effort to regionalize a lot of the sports departments around the Southeast. So they're between beat writers down here. And when I heard that, I kind of raised my hand and said, hey, I became a volunteer, and, they were more than happy to take me up on it. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it came about. So not exactly freelance, but definitely not my full-time deal.
Understand. Could be that you're spending a lot of time in Hattiesburg over the next few weeks if that opportunity presents itself as well. Let's dive in and talk about yesterday, which was kind of a strange day. Like not unlike the SEC tournament, a couple of states over, or one state over in Hoover. Weather issues kind of plaguing the early days of the tournament. Have we gotten past all the weather? Does it look like smooth sailing from here on out with the Conference USA tournament?
Yeah, I was actually just talking to some folks within the administration and some officials like facilities people here, and I know that the person who usually is here when bad weather is expected is not here today. And so
that's good news.
I think definitely. I think the forecast is really, really optimistic for the rest of this weekend.
All right, so let's talk about last night's game. Southern Miss UAB. They played in Birmingham about a month ago, maybe it was 3 weeks ago, and UAB played really, really well. Scott Berry told us that UAB had a better plan pitching his team than anybody else they played. They didn't get a lot of good swings off. It was a low-scoring game last night, but Southern Miss gets the dramatic home run late. They win it 4-3. And it feels like winning that first game in a conference tournament is such a big deal. You can kind of exhale a little bit, and maybe some of the pressure, especially if playing it in your home ballpark, kind of goes away a little bit after that.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, they were supposed to play at 4 o'clock yesterday. They were supposed to start at 4, and the weather pushed it back to like a 9:22 first pitch. And so, you add that to whatever circumstances that go along with, a tournament opening game and playing the team that took 2 out of 3 from you earlier on the road. You kind of add that all together, and you're right. It's a tricky, it can be a tricky situation, but no, I mean, outside of a couple of mistakes from Tanner Hall that ended up over the wall, lucky for him, there was nobody on base, so there was some damage control in that way from him. But outside of that, there really wasn't much to complain about if you're a Southern Miss fan. I mean, I think only 2 of the 3 runs that UAB scored were actually earned. So I think USM committed 1 error, but yeah, I mean, they swung the bats pretty well. They left, I think, 9 or 11 men on base or something like that. That's another little quibble, but they won. They at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Jason, what was the vibe like in the ballpark? Obviously, this is the end of the road for Southern Miss in Conference USA. There may be some nostalgia there. I don't think there's any sadness about leaving because they're excited about where they're headed. But conference tournament, night game, that tension that we were just talking about of game one of the tournament, a pretty good crowd, it looked like.
It was a really nice crowd, and not only that, they were into it. Boy, I mean, like, as I said before, it started at 9:22, but it was a good crowd. It was a lively crowd, and you know, I think part of that was aided by the fact that there was some tensions got a little bit high in the early going. There was a lot of chirping going on back and forth, even as early as the first inning, and I think that helped get the crowd going. But yeah, no, it was a good game. It was a tight game. It was a back and forth game, and I think that kept the crowd into it. And yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing about Southern Miss. Like, you know, I'm sure everybody has seen the numbers that have been put out in recent days. They are 10th in the country this year in average home attendance, which the only teams that had better numbers than Southern Miss in that area were SEC, ACC, and Big 12 teams. That's pretty darn good, if you ask me, for Southern Miss. I mean, they love their baseball here, and for good reason. You know, this is a team that's 7th in the country in RPI and really, really rolling.
Yeah, no question about that. Tell me a little bit more about that sequence. There's a balk that's called on BYU. You have the catcher, BYU, on UAB. UAB's catcher kind of stands in front of home plate like he's going to keep the runner from scoring, even though it was a balk call. Casey Dunn gets ejected. What was take me through that.
Yeah, so I asked Carson Paetow, who was on third base, who eventually scored the run after the catcher allowed him to score. Yeah, there was a balk. I think UAB thought that it wasn't a balk, and you know, as I said before, there had been some testy moments, some chippiness, pretty much from the outset. Dustin Dickerson, the second batter of the game for Southern Miss, kind of got into it a little bit with UAB's catcher. I think he was running a little hot under the collar for some reason. And yeah, in the fourth inning, they call the balk. Carson Paetow trots home. The catcher, for at the last minute, takes 2 steps up the line, and Paetow kind of gives him a little bit of a shoulder on his. He kind of sidesteps him and gives him a little bit of a shoulder on the way around him, and it begins to get really chippy at that point. The coach comes out. He's arguing. He's ejected. He didn't realize he'd been ejected. He goes back to the dugout, finds out he's been tossed, comes back out for more. And the whole time the Southern Miss crowd is giving him heck. And so it was really, really kind of an oddly spicy night here at Pete Taylor Park.
That's so much better, though, than if it's just like milquetoast.
Yes. Oh no. I mean, if you have to have one or the other, again, I mean, Southern Miss has long been known. Like, when I was a student here, back in the early 2000s, I would come to some games, and when Corky Palmer was the coach, and I mean, you talk about down that third baseline. I mean, some of those poor third basemen and third base coaches for opposing teams. I mean, it was brutal. It could get really, really ruthless, to the point where I think Corky Palmer finally had to say something, to calm some people down a little bit. And since then, it has been much more, I guess, tempered. But still very, very passionate fans here at Southern Miss. And, I mean, I think part of that is the fact that Southern Miss has been really good. This is the 6th year in a row that they've won 40 or more games. 6th year in a row they're going to make a regional. So, when you build a winner, when you build a culture like this, then the fans are going to feel emboldened to really make it tough on the opponent, and the Golden Eagles have kind of helped them earn that right. Yeah,
certainly a great home field advantage. Hey, only about 30 seconds left. Hurston Waldrop bumped up. He's going to start tomorrow against UTSA. Was there any rationale as to why they pushed him up a day?
Yeah, I actually talked to Christian Ostrander, the pitching coach, earlier this afternoon, and basically what he told me was by pitching Hurston today, it was all done with how the rotation would shake out for the regional.
Okay.
They feel better about Hunter Riggins pitching on short rest if he has to than Hurston Waldrop. So this is an opportunity to have Hurston have a full rest once he gets back on the mound for the regional.
Jason, great to have you back in Mississippi, even if it's for a short time. Thanks so much for your time today.